Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 530 News on KAJ, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Don Fisher. A train carrying Republican members of Congress, including Montana Senator Steve Daines and Congressman Greg Gianforte, to their retreat in Greenbrier, West Virginia, hit a truck this morning. The lawmakers were scheduled to spend the next few days at a West Virginia resort for their annual issues conference, and Gianforte and Daines were not injured, but CBS's Mo Lange has details on the rest of the passengers.
Republican lawmakers heading to a working retreat in West Virginia were jolted in their seats when their train collided with a garbage truck at a railroad crossing.
It was quite a shock, quite a collision. Startled everyone. A number of people fell on the floor or in the aisle.
The accident happened in the rural area of Crozet, Virginia, about 110 miles southwest of Washington.
The train jerked very hard and then kept going, and then it came to a pretty quick stop, and everybody knew something bad had happened.
One person in the truck was killed and 2 other people were injured. Lawmakers, who were also physicians, jumped in to help, including Congressman Brad Winstrup of Ohio. It was Dr. Winstrup, a former battlefield surgeon, who helped save Congressman Steve Scalise's life when he was shot last year. Congressman Roger Marshall of Kansas, also a doctor, tweeted that he performed CPR on the train conductor and helped 2 people in the cab of the truck.
The train hit not the cab itself, but right where the back part of the cab connects to the dump part of the truck.
The impact from the collision actually forced the garbage container off the bed of the truck, spewing trash everywhere. House Speaker Paul Ryan was on the train with his family. He called the accident a terrible tragedy and tweeted, "We pray for the victims and their families."
On this one?
Lawmakers left the Capitol this morning for this retreat to work on their legislative agenda. They're still planning to travel to their destination in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board are en route to the crash scene. Mo Lange, CBS News.
And Amtrak says 2 of its crew members and 2 passengers were taken to a local hospital with minor injuries, and House Speaker Paul Ryan and his family were on board of the train at the time, but Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was not. And switching over to weather, northwest Montana saw more winter weather today, and it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. For more on what you can expect for the rest of the week and into the weekend, let's toss it over to meteorologist Russ Thomas, who has a look at our first forecast. Russ?
Yeah, it looks like what's going to happen here over the next several days is we get one day that's going to be pretty decent, otherwise just kind of messy, especially in the valleys, which is something we've seen so much of lately. And that one day that looks like it's going to be okay happens to be tomorrow. We still have a few snowflakes in the higher elevations, but generally speaking, not that bad out there. Just a lot of cloud cover. 27 Phillipsburg, 29 in Sealy, 33 Polson, 35 degrees in Missoula. All these numbers that we typically see this time of year. And again, coming up your Thursday, not too bad. Starting Friday, and a little bit of a mess out there, and we'll have your complete forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Russ. Flathead Area Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks has embarked on a research project looking into mule deer populations in northwest Montana, specifically in the Libby and Fisher River areas. And as MTN's Nicole Miller reports, catching them may just be the hardest part.
Mule deer are a very important big game species. Obviously, they're a very popular species for hunters to get out in the fall and to chase.
But this winter, it's biologists and game wardens with Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks doing the chasing, teaming up to wrangle as many as they can.
Over the next few months, we're going to try and capture 30 in a specific location and 30 in another area in the Whitefish Range.
They're rounding them up as part of a research project that Region 1 Education Officer Dylan Tabish says will give them insight into the population.
In recent years, we've seen some minor drops in our check station data after hunting season.
Tabish says populations could be perfectly healthy, but in order to find out, they need to catch them.
Making sure we understand how the population's doing, what trends could be out there impacting our big game species, whether it's predation, habitat changes, nutrition.
He says they're finding out that is easier said than done.
Trapping the mule deer is proven a little difficult. The terrain's a little rugged, and these animals are pretty smart.
Tabish says the goal of the project is to ultimately gain insight into the population in order to manage them better.
Research is a huge part of what we do because that really helps give us ideas about how we should be properly managing our wildlife and fish species.
Nicole Miller, MTN News, Kalispell.
And Tabish says once the research is complete, the agency will release their findings in a report. State emergency managers now say that they will appeal the federal government's decision to deny millions of dollars in additional aid to deal with the historic 2017 wildfire season. Leaders initially said they wouldn't ask FEMA to reconsider its ruling that the fire season didn't meet the requirements for a major disaster declaration, but they decided to narrow their request, focusing on the 20 days in September when weather conditions were most severe and when hundreds of new fires started. They're also asking for just under $15 million now instead of the $44 million that they originally requested. Leaders with Montana Disaster and Emergency Services say the changes bring the state's request closer in line to the weather-related disasters FEMA usually deals with. They expect it to be at least a month before the agency responds, and if they receive the money, it will be used to replenish Montana's fire fund. 3 recent investigations at 3 different Montana schools have revealed suspected inappropriate teacher and student relationships. On Monday, the Ronan School District said a 6th grade English teacher at the middle school, who also worked as an assistant boys basketball coach at a high school, resigned before an investigation could be completed. Also on Monday, school leaders in Great Falls said a teacher resigned after a district found substantial credible evidence of a sexual relationship between the teacher and a 17-year-old. The Cascade County Attorney's Office identified the teacher as Levi Johnson. And on January 15th, Helena police filed a complaint accusing former Capitol High School teacher Renee Carter of repeated sexual contact with a minor male not legally able to give consent between February and June of 2015. Helena Public School Superintendent Jack Copps told MTN the male was a student and that Carter resigned her position in July of 2015. And the most serious allegation of a teacher will be sent to the State Board of Public Education to investigate. The board oversees teacher certification and can consider the supervision or revocation of teacher certificates. MTN's Lindsay Ford spoke to the board about the process of investigating cases like these.
The State Board of Public Education can discipline a teacher for a number of reasons, ranging from incompetency and gross neglect to conviction of certain types of crimes and immoral conduct.
Student-teacher relationship is, whether they've reached the age of legal consent or not, is still a problem.
Board Executive Director Pete Donovan says when it comes to cases of immoral conduct investigated annually,
it really varies a lot. I mean, there are some years that we have 1 or 2 cases, and there's other years where we can have 6 or 8.
Montana administrative rules say immoral conduct can mirror many state criminal statutes, but it can also be any sexual conduct or intercourse involving a minor or a person the applicant or licensee knows, reasonably should know, or should have known is a student at a public or private elementary or secondary school.
Sexual assault, sexual intercourse without consent, indecent exposure, deviant sexual conduct, offenses involving prostitution, endangering the welfare of children.
When one of the types of these cases are forwarded to the board, Assistant Attorney General Robert Stutz is contacted. It's Stutz's job to review the case, including information collected by the Office of Public Instruction and the school district where the teacher worked. If the board proceeds with the investigation, a hearing will be scheduled before the board and Superintendent of Public Instruction to consider disciplinary action.
In addition to the hearing before the board, the Superintendent of Public Instruction also has the authority to suspend a teacher's license immediately if there's a concern about public health and safety.
At the hearing, a teacher can bring in witnesses to defend themselves and have an attorney represent them. Following the hearing, the board can choose to issue a letter of reprimand, suspend, or revoke the teacher's certificate.
That's why we rely on what's defined in statute and in the board's rule.
An accused teacher can also choose to voluntarily forfeit their teaching certificate. If the board chooses to discipline a teacher or the teacher forfeits their license voluntarily, that information is submitted to a national database other districts can access, should the teacher apply at another district.
It's very unfortunate when these things do happen, but I think it's important to remember that it's such a tiny percentage of educators that get involved in these kind of problems, but when it does happen, it really has a profound impact on so many people.
Lindsay Ford, MTN News, Helena.
And there's no mistaking this year's Bitterroot Winter Games for the summer edition of the Special Olympics. MTN's Dennis Bragg shows us that even near whiteout conditions can obscure the enthusiasm of the athletes from all over west central Montana who are finally getting their chance to compete.
On a day that saw gusty winds whipping the heavy snow showers into a froth, you might think competitors would be reluctant to tackle the elements as the Bitterroot Winter Games opened Tuesday. And while the propane heaters were running full blast, so were the athletes, whether it was the always popular snowshoe races or downhill events. Blizzard conditions weren't about to stop them.
It's not about winning, it's about being brave.
But it's not just the enthusiasm and the snow that makes this such a successful event. It also takes dozens of volunteers and the support of many sponsors to make sure it happens every year.
We have such great community support. I mean, obviously, Lost Trail Powder Mountain does wonders. The Hamilton Golf Course helps out a ton. Global Wireless comes involved and help us put on our Hacker Golf Tournament. I could go on and on about community organizations, Knights of the Columbus, Rotary Clubs. I mean, it goes on, and this community has jumped behind us something fierce. And to give you an example, it's like the Sula's Women's Club make cookies. It's just a small little group make cookies. And so that's one end of the spectrum, and it's great, it's great. You couldn't get it done without all help.
Hugs and encouragement and friendships don't hurt either, paying attention to every detail, both for safety and performance.
If they get the opportunity to see these athletes with the smiles and the grins and the happiness, it makes it all worthwhile. I don't care if you donated $5 or $500. It's all amazing, amazing.
Dennis Bragg, MTN News, Lost Trail.
And the Bitterroot Winter Games will continue Wednesday morning into the early afternoon, and anyone is more than welcome to come up and cheer for the athletes. President Trump's call for unity in the State of Union address isn't going to go over well with Democrats. Find out what they have to say next on KAJ.